At just 19 years old, Amara had already learned what it meant to be invisible. A young black woman alone in Seoul, no family, no papers, and no one who cared if she disappeared. Surviving on the streets of a city that looked right through her, she never imagined that one freezing night would connect her to Somi, the silent daughter of Seoul's most dangerous man. A child attending the city's most elite private school, yet locked in a silence no therapist could break. But when Somi's father, Mr. Kang, the man they called the Iron King, who controlled Seoul's entire underground empire, discovered a homeless black girl secretly teaching his daughter to smile again, what he did next shocked the entire city. So sit back, relax, and get ready for one of the most powerful stories you've ever heard. If this story touches your heart, smash that like button and share it with someone who needs hope today. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another inspiring story like this one. A sharp voice cut through the cold evening air in Gangnam. Get away from here. A restaurant owner in a grease-stained apron rushed out, his face twisted with disgust. He pointed directly at Amara, who was crouched near the back entrance, trying to stay warm by the kitchen vents. You're bad for business. People don't want to see your kind here. Amara didn't argue. She never did. She gathered the cardboard she'd been sitting on, tucked her worn backpack over her shoulder, and stood slowly. Her body ached from another night sleeping on concrete. The owner watched her with arms crossed until she moved far enough down the alley to satisfy him. Before the story continues, remember this. In this world, only the prepared survive. Subscribe now and join the family. You don't want to miss what happens next. She'd heard worse. Much worse. A group of teenagers passed by the alley entrance, smartphones out, laughing as they recorded her. One shouted something in Korean. She understood every word, though they didn't know that. Look, a beggar. Probably doesn't even speak Korean. More laughter. They posted it somewhere, she assumed. Entertainment for strangers who'd never know her name. Amara kept walking, eyes down, trying to make herself smaller. In Seoul, she learned that being black and poor made you two kinds of invisible, ignored when you needed help, but hypervisible when people wanted someone to mock or fear. Shop owners followed her with suspicious eyes. Job applications disappeared after interviews when they saw her face. Landlords suddenly had no vacancies. She survived on restaurant scraps, shelter beds when available, and the few ones she earned from odd jobs no one else wanted. She'd come to Korea 2 years ago with her aunt, chasing promises of work and education. But her aunt died in an accident within 6 months, and Amara, with no legal status and no family, fell through every crack in the system. She couldn't go back home to Nigeria. There was nothing left there but more poverty. So she stayed, surviving day by day in a country that had no space for someone like her. That night, searching for a warm place to rest, Amara found herself behind a massive compound in one of Seoul's wealthiest neighborhoods. Steam rose from kitchen vents, blessed warmth against the winter cold. She pressed close to the wall, trying to absorb any heat she could. That's when she saw her. A little girl, maybe 7 or 8, standing alone in a small courtyard garden. Expensive coat, perfect hair, but her eyes empty. Staring at nothing. Something about that look pierced through Amara's exhaustion. She recognized it. Loneliness. The kind that made you disappear inside yourself. Amara should have left. This was private property. Security cameras probably watched every corner. But she couldn't walk away from those eyes. She moved closer, slowly, and crouched down where the girl could see her. She didn't speak, didn't want to startle her. Instead, she smiled gently and waved. The girl's eyes flickered. A small reaction. Progress. Amara tried simple sign language, something she'd learned during volunteer work back when her life was different. Hello. My name is Amara. She finger-spelled it slowly. The girl watched, curious now. Her head tilted slightly. Then, hesitantly, she lifted her small hand and waved back. Amara's heart lifted. She didn't know why this child was alone, why she seemed so sad, but for the first time in months, Amara felt like she mattered to someone. She came back the next night, and the night after that. Each time, the girl was there, waiting. They communicated through gestures, drawings in the dirt, shared glances. The girl never spoke, but she smiled. And that smile became the only warmth Amara had in her frozen world. What Amara didn't know was that someone was watching them. High above, in a window overlooking the garden, a man stood in the shadows. His expression was unreadable, dangerous. His name was Kong. And nothing, absolutely nothing happened in his world without him knowing. The question wasn't whether he'd seen her. The question was, what would the Iron King do about the homeless black girl who'd done what no one else could, make his daughter smile? The warehouse reeked of rust and fear. 3 men stood on one side of a metal table, their faces pale despite their expensive suits. On the other side stood Kong alone. He didn't need backup. "Mr. Kong, please understand, the shipment was delayed. We need more time." "You had time." King's voice was quiet, which made it worse. Men twice his age shifted nervously. "You had my money. You had 3 months. What you don't have is product." The oldest one, desperate now, stepped forward. "Sir, we can make this right. Another week will." King's fist slammed into the man's throat before anyone could blink. The man crumpled, gasping. The others didn't move. Didn't even help their colleague choking on the ground. They knew better. "You stole from me." Kong examined his knuckles, scarred, split again from the impact. "People who steal from me don't get second chances." By the time he left, his men were cleaning up. They always did. The Iron King never dirted his own hands more than necessary. His reputation did most of the work, cold, efficient, merciless. Even his most trusted lieutenant kept 2 steps behind, never beside him. His compound rose like a fortress in Gangnam's heart, high walls, cameras everywhere, armed guards at every entrance. Inside, marble and money. Outside, fear and respect. But tonight, arriving home past midnight, King felt only exhaustion. Not from business. From something deeper. He climbed the stairs quietly, stopped at a familiar door. Pushed it open. Somi sat by the window in her silk pajamas, staring at nothing. 8 years old. Beautiful like her mother. Silent like a ghost. "Somia." His voice softened, a tone reserved only for her. "Did you eat dinner?" "Nothing." Not a glance. Not a flicker. He moved closer, knelt beside her chair. "I brought you something. Your favorite cookies from." Her eyes remained fixed on the darkness outside. 3 years. 3 years since that night. 3 years since she watched her mother die. 3 years since his daughter's voice disappeared, taking his heart with it. Kang stood slowly, placed the cookies on her nightstand, kissed the top of her head. She didn't react. In the hallway, the dim light caught his face differently. Without his men watching, without enemies to crush, the Iron King looked exactly like what he was, a broken father who'd burn the entire world down just to hear his daughter speak again. He walked to his study, poured whiskey he wouldn't drink, and stood at the window overlooking the compound's back garden. His eyes drifted to the alley beyond the walls, where steam rose from the kitchen vents. Something moved in the shadows there. Someone. Kong watched, perfectly still. He didn't know it yet, but everything was about to change. Amara woke to someone's elbow in her ribs. The shelter was packed 50 bodies in a space meant for 20. She gathered her backpack quickly, careful not to wake others, and slipped out before the morning rush for the single bathroom. Seoul's winter hit like a slap. 19 years old, dark-skinned, alone. She stood out on every street, in every crowd. Not in the way that made people curious. In the way that made them look away. She spent the morning job hunting. A cafe near Hongdae needed a server. The manager smiled during the phone interview. That smile died the moment Amara walked in. The position's filled. The woman didn't even pretend. "But I just spoke to you 20 minutes ago." Filled. The door closed in her face. It was always like this. applications ignored, interviews that ended the second they saw her. One restaurant owner had been honest at least. You're qualified, but front of house? Our customers expect a certain look. What he meant was clear. Still, Amara kept her dignity. She spoke Korean fluently, better than some native speakers. She'd studied education back in Nigeria before her aunt died and the money disappeared. 3 times a week, she volunteered at a community center, teaching children English. She had dreams. The world just refused to see them. Evening came. Amara made her way to Gangnam, to the alley behind the massive compound. The kitchen vents provided blessed warmth. She pressed close to the wall, trying to absorb the heat. That's when she saw her. A little girl in an expensive coat, standing alone in the small garden. Just staring. At nothing. At everything. The emptiness in those eyes made Amara's chest ache. She recognized that look. Loneliness. The kind that hollows you out. She should leave. This was private property. Dangerous property. But Amara couldn't walk away from that face. She moved slowly into the girl's line of sight, crouched low to seem less threatening. She smiled gently. Waved. The girl's eyes flickered, the first sign of life. Amara tried simple sign language from her volunteer work. Hello. She finger-spelled her name slowly. Amere. The girl watched, transfixed. Then, hesitantly, she lifted her small hand. Waved back. Amara's heart soared. She pulled out the rice ball she'd saved from lunch, her only food, and broke it in half. Offered it. The girl stepped closer, took it with delicate fingers. And then, miracle of miracles, she smiled. A real smile. Small, but genuine. They sat together in the alley's shadows, communicating through gestures and shared silence. When Amara finally left, she promised with hand signals, tomorrow. I'll come back tomorrow. The girl nodded. For 3 nights, they met like this. A homeless black girl and a silent rich child, finding something neither had elsewhere, someone who saw them. On the 4th night, everything changed. Amara was teaching Somi to draw emotions, happy face, sad face, when a voice cut through the darkness. Stay where you are. Her blood turned to ice. A man emerged from the shadows, and even in the dim light, she knew. The expensive suit. The way he moved, controlled, dangerous. This was him. The owner. The Iron King. Amara's hands shot up instinctively. I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to. I'll leave right now, I swear. Stay. 1 word. A command, not a request. She froze. He moved closer, and she could see his face now, sharp features, eyes that missed nothing. He looked at Somi, who had abandoned her drawing to clutch Amara's sleeve with both hands. Clinging. Refusing to let go. Something flickered across his face. Shock. Wonder. Pain. What's your name? His voice was rough, like he hadn't used it gently in years. Amara. Her throat was so dry she could barely speak. You're not Korean. It wasn't a question. The weight of those words hung between them, everything they meant, everything she'd faced. The silence stretched. Would this be like all the others? Would her skin matter more than what she'd done? Then, can you teach her to speak? Amara blinked. What? My daughter. He gestured to Somi. Can you teach her to speak again? I don't know. Honesty felt safer than false promises. I'm not a therapist. I'm nobody, You reached her. He stepped closer, and Amara saw the desperation hiding behind his controlled expression. Doctors. Therapists. Specialists from 3 countries. None of them could do what you did in 4 nights. She's touching you. She hasn't touched anyone in 3 years. Amara looked down. Somi's small fingers were wrapped around her sleeve, trusting and tight. Live in my home, Kong said. Work with her every day. Name your price. Her mind reeled. This man was dangerous, everyone knew the stories. His world was violence and blood money. And she'd face worse than job rejections in his house. She'd face his men's judgment, society's disgust, questions about what a black woman was doing in a crime lord's home. Could she trust a monster? But what was her alternative? Another night shivering in alleys. Another day of being invisible. Another year of slow death by hopelessness. And there was Somi, looking up at her with something Amara hadn't seen before. Hope. Yes. The word escaped before she could stop it. I'll do it. Kong nodded once. Then his expression hardened. My men won't like this. Society won't like this. You'll face questions. Disrespect. Worse. He paused. But in my house, you'll be safe. That's my promise. It was a warning and a vow. He knew exactly what she'd face. And he was offering protection anyway. Amara took a shaky breath. Okay, come. He turned toward the compound. Amara picked up her backpack, everything she owned fit inside it. Somi took her hand, and together they walked toward the fortress's back entrance. Behind her, streets, cold, invisibility. Ahead, luxury, danger, and a little girl who needed her. The gate closed behind them with a heavy click. There was no going back now. Amara had never seen wealth like this. Marble floors so polished she could see her reflection. Chandeliers that cost more than most people earned in a lifetime. Staff moving silently through hallways like ghosts in expensive uniforms. But the hostility was immediate. 2 guards watched her pass, their conversation in Korean loud enough to hear. What is that doing here? Boss has lost his mind. A maid whispered to another near the staircase. A homeless black girl? In this house. Amara kept her face neutral. They didn't know she understood every word. Kang's lieutenant, Min Ho, confronted her in the foyer. Middle-aged, scar across his jaw, eyes full of contempt. Is this a joke? Before Amara could respond, another guard muttered something vile, a racist slur she'd heard too many times. She pretended not to hear, but her hands shook. The room they gave her was larger than anywhere she'd ever lived. King-size bed. Private bathroom. Windows overlooking the garden. It should have felt like heaven. Instead, it felt like a gilded cage. The weight of her task crashed down. This wasn't just teaching, this was healing a traumatized child while surviving in a world that wanted her gone. But Somi needed her. Their first real session, Amara spread out art supplies on the floor. We're going to draw feelings today. Red for angry. Blue for sad. Yellow for happy. Somi watched, hesitant. Amara drew a simple face, colored it yellow, smiled. Then she started a clapping game from her childhood in Nigeria, singing softly. Somi's eyes lit up. She tried to copy the rhythm. That's it. You're doing amazing. Days passed. Amara shared stories about her grandmother, her culture, treating Somi not as broken but as whole. She taught her that silence was okay. Communication came in many forms. Then, one afternoon, breakthrough. Somi drew a picture. 2 figures holding hands. One with dark skin in bright colors. One with light skin in softer tones. She held it up to Amara shyly. Amara's eyes filled with tears. Is this us? Somi nodded. Smiled. Handed it to her, the first gift, the first acknowledgement. It's beautiful, sweetheart. I'll keep it forever. What Amara didn't know, Kong watched from the doorway. He'd been observing through security feeds, appearing in person more often. Watching Amara's patience. Her genuine care despite the hostility surrounding her. Something shifted in him. Late that night, unable to sleep, Amara went to the kitchen for water. She found Kong there, suit jacket off, looking almost human. You should be resting, he said. So should you. She poured her water. Thank you. For this opportunity. You're helping her. I should thank you. Amara set down her glass. Turned to face him directly. Your men disrespect me in your house. Every day. If you want me to help Somi, you need to make them stop. Silence. His expression darkened, not at her, she realized, but at the truth. No one speaks to me like that. Maybe they should. He stared at her. Then, unexpectedly, the corner of his mouth lifted. You're either very brave or very foolish. Desperate. Amara corrected. But I won't stay where I'm not safe. Not even for Somi. The next morning, Kong gathered his men in the main hall. Amara watched from the stairs. Listen carefully. His voice carried absolute authority. Amara is under my personal protection. She is helping my daughter. Anyone who disrespects her with words, looks, or actions answers directly to me. He paused. Am I clear? Murmurs of yes, sir. Minho looked furious, but said nothing. As the men dispersed, Kong glanced up, met Amara's eyes, nodded once. The dynamics began to shift. 3 weeks in, and Somi was humming. Amara heard it during their afternoon session, a soft melody while coloring. Small, but monumental. She wanted to cry with joy. That evening, she found Kong in his study. He was reviewing documents, always working, always distant. When did you last play with her? Amara asked from the doorway. He looked up surprised. I provide everything she needs. Not observe through cameras. Not check on her like an employee. Play. When did you last sit on the floor and just be her father? His jaw tightened. You don't understand. Then help me understand. Silence stretched between them. Then something broke in his expression. 3 years ago. His voice was rough. Rivals wanted to send a message. They took my wife from a restaurant. Somi was with her. He stared at his hands. By the time I found them, my wife was already gone. And Somi was just staring. She hasn't spoken since that moment. Hasn't been the same. Amara's chest ached. She watched it happen? Every second. His hands curled into fists. I built an empire on violence. And violence took everything that mattered. I'm sorry. She meant it. But you can't undo the past. I know that. You're still choosing violence now. She stepped into the room. Every day. Every deal. What kind of world are you building for her? Because she's watching. She's always watching. He looked at her like no one had ever spoken to him this way. You think you know me? I think you love your daughter. I think you're terrified of losing her completely. And I think you don't know how to be soft anymore. The truth hung between them, sharp and undeniable. Meanwhile, Somi's progress continued. She hummed during sessions, melodies Amara sang. African lullabies blended with Korean children's songs. A bridge between two worlds. One afternoon, Somi reached up and touched Amara's hair curiously. Many people had done this, usually rudely. But Somi's touch was gentle, wondering. It's different from yours, isn't it? Amara said softly. In my family, hair like mine is called a crown. It's strong. Beautiful. Something to be proud of. She took Somi's hand, let her feel the texture. Different doesn't mean less. It just means unique. Somi smiled. Nodded. Ran her fingers through the coils with fascination, not fear. But the weight of Somi's trauma pressed on Amara constantly. This wasn't simple shyness, this was profound PTSD. A child who watched her mother murdered. What if Amara failed? What if she wasn't enough? Late that night, Kong found her on the garden terrace, staring at nothing. Second thoughts. Constant thoughts. She didn't look at him. What if I can't help her? What if I make it worse? You've already done more than anyone. He stood beside her. Every doctor, every specialist, they saw a problem to fix. You see her as a person. That's not enough. It's everything. Their eyes met. Something passed between them, understanding, recognition. Two broken people seeing each other's humanity. The moment was interrupted by Minho appearing in the doorway. Boss, we have a problem. Inside, Minho showed them his phone. Messages from business associates. Gossip spreading through Kang's network. They're calling her your charity case, Minho said flatly. Questioning your judgment. Asking if you've gone soft. Amara's stomach dropped. Kang's expression hardened. Let them talk. It makes you look weak. I don't care. He looked at Amara. Let them think whatever they want. But Amara knew the truth. The outside world was watching. And they weren't kind. Minho dropped the envelope on Kang's desk. Surveillance photos spilled out. Amara in the garden with Somi, Amara at the market, Amara everywhere. They're watching her, Minho said. The Beck Syndicate. The Chinese. Even some of our own people are talking. Kang's jaw tightened. Our own people? Some think she's a weakness. They're getting careless with security protocols. Prejudice making them sloppy. Kang felt rage building in his chest. The business dinner was supposed to be routine. Kang brought Amara and Somi, their first public appearance. The moment they entered, conversation stopped. One of the older bosses, Young, laughed. Kanga, is this your new diversity initiative? Another snickered. I didn't know you were running a charity now. Amara kept her face neutral, but Kang saw her hand tighten around Somi's. Young leaned back in his chair. Does she serve other purposes, or just babysitting? The room went silent. Kang stood slowly. When he spoke, his voice was ice. This meeting is over. What? We haven't even. Our partnership is over. Kang looked at each man. If you can't show basic respect in my presence, you're useless to me. Get out. You're ending deals worth millions over a... Now. The word carried death in it. They left. Quickly. Amara stared at him. You just lost all that money. Because of me. Money means nothing if I have to listen to that. He touched Somi's head gently. Let's go home. 2 nights later, gunfire shattered the compound's peace. Amara was reading to Somi when the first shots rang out. She didn't freeze. Instinct took over. She grabbed Somi, ran to the panic room Kang had shown her, sealed the door. It's okay, baby. We're safe. We're safe. She sang softly, one of her grandmother's songs, while Somi trembled against her. Outside, Kang's men repelled the attack. Minor. Probing. Testing defenses. When silence finally came, Kang burst into the panic room. His suit was torn, blood on his knuckles, not his. He saw them huddled together, Amara still singing, Somi calm despite everything. You got her to safety. Of course I did. Something in his expression shifted. His men crowded behind him, and they saw it too. This woman had protected what mattered most. Not just from duty. From love. Later, Amara overheard Kang and Minho arguing in the study. Send her away, Minho insisted. For her own safety. They're targeting her specifically now. No. Boss, they'll kill her to hurt you. She stays. Kang's voice was absolute. We increase security. Triple the guards. But I won't sacrifice her safety or send her back to the streets. She stays. End of discussion. Silence. Then Minho left. Amara stood in the hallway, tears stinging her eyes. Someone was fighting for her to stay. For the first time in her life, someone wanted her to stay. She knocked softly. Kang looked up. Why are you doing this? Her voice broke. I'm nobody. He stood, walked to her. My daughter loves you. That makes you everything. The air between them charged with something unspoken. Something dangerous. I can't lose you both, he said quietly. Amara's breath caught. But before either could speak again, Minho returned, tablet in hand. You need to see this. Security footage. Rival gang members in a warehouse planning. Photos of Amara covered one wall. Red circles. Target markers. She wasn't collateral damage. She was the target. The morning was ordinary. Sunlight warming the garden. Amara and Somi kneeling in the dirt, planting flowers. See how gentle we have to be? Amara pressed soil around a seedling. Plants are like people. They need patience. Time. Love. Somi had been more responsive lately, hand gestures, drawing emotions, even humming more. But always silent. Always. One day, these will bloom, Amara continued. Big, beautiful colors. But first, they need to grow roots. Strong foundations. Mama. The word was so soft, Amara thought she'd imagined it. She froze. What did you say, sweetheart? Somi looked up, tears streaming down her small face. Mama. She was looking at Amara. 3 years of silence. Shattered. Oh my God. Amara's hands shook. Say it again. Please say it again. Mama. 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 Somi's voice broke, desperate, as if the word had been trapped inside her all this time. Amara scooped her up, sobbing and laughing at once. Yes, baby. Yes. I'm here. I'm right here. Somi clung to her like drowning, repeating it over and over, Mama, Mama, Mama. Guards came running. Someone must have alerted Kong because he appeared moments later, still in his dress shirt from a meeting, hair disheveled from running. He stopped at the garden's edge. Stared. His daughter. Speaking. Her voice, small and broken but real, filled the air. For the first time in the entire story, the Iron King broke. Tears streamed down his face unchecked. He approached slowly, as if afraid sudden movement would shatter this impossible moment. Somiya, he whispered. She turned in Amara's arms, saw her father crying, reached for him with one small hand. Papa. Kang's knees nearly buckled. He wrapped his arms around both of them, and they stood there, three people bound by trauma and healing, holding each other like the world might end if they let go. An unconventional family. But family nonetheless. You did it, Kong said to Amara, voice wrecked. You brought her back. But celebration mixed with pain. Somi calling Amara Mama beautiful, but complicated. A reminder of who was lost. And Amara wondered, was she replacing someone or becoming someone? You're not replacing her. Kang seemed to read her mind. He touched Amara's face gently. You're saving us both. That evening, the house felt different. Lighter. Somi spoke in small bursts, simple words, tentative sentences. Water, please. Thank you. I love you, Mama. Every word was a miracle. Staff celebrated. Even Minho smiled. But at midnight, the security team burst into Kang's study. Laptop open. New surveillance footage. They're moving, the head of security said grimly. The Beck Syndicate. They've finalized their plan. On screen, a warehouse meeting. Photos of Amara everywhere. Maps of her routine. Strike dates circled in red. They're going to take her, Minho confirmed. Not to negotiate. Not for ransom. They want to destroy you emotionally. Break you the way you broke them. The celebration curdled into dread. Kong stared at the screen. Double all security. No one leaves the compound without a full escort. But he knew the truth. His enemies were patient. And they would strike when the moment was right. 3 days later, the moment came. Amara sat in the back of the SUV, 2 guards in front. The immigration lawyer Kang hired had an office in Itaewon. He'd been working to secure her legal status, give her a future. She was nervous, but hopeful. The attack happened at a red light. 2 cars boxed them in. Men with masks. Gunfire precise, professional. The guards didn't stand a chance. Amara's door ripped open. Hands dragged her out, zip-tied her wrists. She screamed, fought, but they were too strong. A bag went over her head. The world went dark. When Kang received the message, he was in a meeting. His phone buzzed. A video file. He pressed play. Amara, bound to a chair. Blood on her face. Behind her, men in masks. And text overlaid with racist slurs. Come alone, Iron King. Let's see if trash is worth dying for. The room went silent. It's a trap, Minho said immediately. You can't. Get out. Kang's voice was lethal. Boss, she's not worth. Kang's hand was around Minho's throat before the sentence finished. She is family. Anyone who questions that can leave now. Or I'll kill you myself. He released him. Minho stumbled back, gasping. Kong looked at his other men. Gear up. We're going to war. At home, Somi had been drawing in her room when the news came. A maid foolishly mentioned Amara was in trouble. Somi's face went blank. The same emptiness from 3 years ago. She was catatonic again, reliving her mother's kidnapping. Staring at nothing. Kong found her like this. His heart shattered. He was torn, save Amara or stay with Somi. How could he choose? But as he turned to leave, something miraculous happened. Somi's eyes focused. She ran to him, grabbed his arm with surprising strength. "Don't let her die." Kong froze. "Papa, please. Save Mama." Full sentences. Desperate. Tears streaming. "I'll be good, I'll be brave. Just bring her home. Please." He knelt, held her face. "I will bring her back. I swear on my life." "Promise?" "Promise." The abandoned factory was in Incheon. Isolated. Perfect for an ambush. Kong brought 8 of his most loyal men. His approach was calculated brutality, the Iron King at his deadliest. Guards outside dropped silently. He moved through the building like death itself, efficient and merciless. He found Amara in the center room. Bound. Beaten. One eye swollen shut. But when she saw him, defiance still burned in her gaze. "Amara. It's a trap," she managed through split lips. More men poured in. 30 at least. The rival boss, Beck, stepped forward. The great Kong. On time. He smiled. "Tell me, why die for her? She's nothing. Nobody. You could have any woman, but you'd throw away your empire for this." Kang's response was ice and fire. "She's worth more than all of you combined. She saved my daughter. She saved me. And yes, I'd burn this entire city down for her." He moved. The fight was brutal. Desperate. Kang was outnumbered but unstoppable, every technique honed over decades unleashed. But Beck was waiting. As Kong reached Amara, cutting her bonds, Beck lunged with a knife aimed at her heart. Kong threw himself between them. The blade sank deep into his side. He didn't stop. Grabbed Beck's arm. Twisted. Broke. Disarmed him and ended it with brutal finality. "Can you walk?" he asked Amara, voice tight with pain. "Yes." You're bleeding. "Move. Now." His men arrived, covering their escape. Gunfire. Chaos. But they made it out. Kong collapsed against the car as they reached safety. Blood soaking his shirt. The last thing he saw before darkness took him, Amara's face, terrified but safe. Worth it, he thought. Worth everything. Kong woke to beeping machines and sterile white walls. Pain radiated from his side, but he was alive. And Amara was there. She sat in a chair beside his bed, exhausted, head resting on the mattress near his hand. She'd been there for 2 days, the nurses told him later. Refused to leave. Somi was curled in her lap, talking softly. "And the flowers we planted, Papa? They're blooming. Big purple ones and yellow ones. I watered them every day you were sleeping." Her voice, still tentative but growing stronger, filled the room with impossible hope. "Just like you said. Patience and love." Kang's eyes burned. He reached out, touched Somi's hair. Both of them startled awake. "Papa." Somi's face lit up. Amara's hand found his immediately. "You're awake. Thank God, you're awake." "Told you," he managed, voice rough. "I'd bring her back." Amara laughed through tears. "You nearly died, you idiot. Worth it." The family they'd become was undeniable. Beautiful. Unbreakable. Recovery took weeks. Amara never left. Somi spoke more each day, telling him stories, reading books aloud, filling the silence he'd lived in for 3 years. And Kang's world began to shift. He couldn't go back to pure violence. Not after seeing what it cost. What it nearly took. He started dismantling his most brutal operations. Some men resisted. He replaced them. The Iron King was changing. And everyone could see it. 6 months later, everything was different. Somi thrived in school, speaking freely, making friends, laughing at recess. She told her classmates proudly about my Amara, her mother, in every way that mattered. The adoption papers had been finalized. Amara was officially Somi's guardian. She'd also enrolled in university, psychology, focus on trauma therapy. She was creating programs for immigrant and marginalized youth, using her experience to give others what she'd fought so hard to find, hope. Her confidence had bloomed. She took up space now. Unapologetically. Kong had legitimized much of his empire, maintaining enough power to protect his family, but stepping back from violence. He'd become an unlikely advocate for immigrant rights and racial justice, using his influence in ways that would have seemed impossible a year ago. His relationship with Amara was deep, respectful, growing into something more. A spring afternoon. Han River Park. Somi was on a swing, pumping her legs, laughing. "Higher, Papa. Push me higher." Kong obliged, smiling, something he did often now. Amara sat on a nearby bench, watching them, her heart so full it ached. "Mom, Dad, watch this." Somi's voice carried across the playground as she jumped off mid-swing, landing perfectly. "That's my girl," Amara called back. Kang sat beside her. Their hands found each other naturally. They were an unconventional family. A reformed criminal. A black immigrant. A healing child. Society still judged. Stares followed them. Whispers. But they didn't care. "We did it," Amara said softly. "You did it," Kong corrected. "No." She squeezed his hand. "We did." Somi ran back, threw herself between them. "Ice cream? Please." They laughed. Agreed. Stood together. Survivors. Protectors. Family. In a world that tried to keep them apart, they'd built something unbreakable. They'd built home.